Working with Luana Morales is such a gift. She's currently our co-facilitator for the Neighborhood Salon, in addition to being a Luminary alumna. And she's a circle keeper and this person who stands at the threshold between life transitions. Her response to the sarcophagi at the museum as a springboard to move forward in her own practice, and this beautiful metaphor and real literal box that is a sarcophagus from the very far past, and then dealing with boxes and burial and what that brings about in communities now and her healing work. It's just really beautiful to have the museum be able to be part of that in any way.
Most people die in hospitals, and person's declared dead. You choose your funeral home where they get sent to, and they call you to drop off clothes. You get a half hour before everyone else is able to come to be with your loved one before the crowd comes in. They present packages and you make decisions in this way. So it's like they die, you're there, and you rush. And you call the people and you drop things off and you sit with them and you check the package that you want, and then you rush. And then you get those half-hour slots before the other people come, and then you rush out of there to either to the crematorium or to the cemetery. And you don't have an opportunity to really accept what happened. So it's like all of a sudden this person that we've known and we've loved is no longer with us. And we don't really have an opportunity to sit with that, to reckon with that, to feel it in our body, to really touch them. And this is not a judgment, right? So my role is to say there's options and there's other ways of doing this, to be inspired. So there is these, this piece, right? So here's the sarcophagus right behind me. And then, the smaller one is over there. And the ways that we're so good at looking at death from a distance, looking at it as art from a distance, from another time. And it was exciting, and it is exciting for me to create art for the living, to hold the dead. So 3 years ago, I had the privilege of being part of the Neighborhood Salons as a luminary. And during that time, there was an exhibit, Life, Death, and Revelry, where a sarcophagus that was being restored was going to be kind of represented for folks to experience and be able to look at different dimensions of it in a way that wasn't accessible before. And I had the opportunity to create an offering, and I decorated a cardboard coffin with images of types of deaths and peoples whose deaths are often invisibilized, and really wanted to use that day and that platform to get people talking and feeling about death. The origin story was an art project, to talk about, to inspire conversations around death. And now we're at a point that this living piece of art will actually be a vessel that will hold a real body, that will go, into the earth or into, a crematorium.
It's an incredible object. Not just functionally, because I think it makes such great parallels with what you've been working on, how to celebrate people and memorialize them, but also just artistically, it's just one of the most spectacular examples of how to do it in this form. You were talking about how you decorate the coffins that you're creating, and not just color, but materials and different images, maybe even as well. Mm-hmm. And that, somebody clearly made a very deliberate choice with this sarcophagus to have carved on it a very elaborate set of reliefs, set of figural images, men and women picking grapes. And it wraps all the way around on the four sides of the sarcophagus, so covering really every surface. The grapes allude to the process of making wine, and the god of wine is Bacchus, for Romans, or from the Greek, Dionysus. And one of his roles was in the afterlife as well, so it's appropriate. The process of making wine is a process of transition that alludes to, metaphorically, to the process of transition from this life to the afterlife. And these groups, during their life, they would go outside the city and they would celebrate together. They would have ecstatic parties as a way of paying tribute to him, and drink together and party together effectively. And so one of the messages, you could say, was, kind of seize the day, enjoy life while you have that very same object that's encouraging you to enjoy life is concealing within it the actual transformation of the body, the physical transformation of the body.
This idea of like always being remembered, and how we're oriented with, like, or socialized rather, to like the prominence, importance, and love of a particular person when they die, how that is expressed, and the pressure of offering that, right? So like with the funeral industrial complex, it's, you see and experience a lot of people going into debt, making these financial decisions in their most vulnerable moments. Part of what inspires me to do this work is one, love doesn't equal how much money you spend, right? And how can we kind of like interrupt the ways we've been socialized to think that I have to get into all of this debt to honor this person's life, but then like what happens to the living?
A death midwife is a person who is able to offer physical, emotional, and spiritual support to a dying person, to support their family, so those that are left behind. And in my role, I also help people kind of, when they're healthy, when they're well, to plan their end of life needs. So things like living wills and do not resuscitate, so like all of these things that are really important for loved ones to know. So when the time comes, they know what to do. The reason I became a death midwife was surviving the initiation of my father's death. So the experience of tending to someone that I love in their last moments, and the beauty of being able to be in that stillness, and the things that I discovered about myself, about our relationship. That experience let me know that I could do this work. The stillness and the sacredness of that portal of death, similar in energy, similar in texture, similar in sweetness that I've experienced in birth work. My philosophy as a practitioner really is about creating the conditions, creating the container for the dying person to feel safe enough. And also, but mostly and most importantly, to teach those that are the family members, the ones that are the beloveds, to give them the skills and to create beauty in that transitional space. These are things that we know. These are things that are like in our DNA. These are things that are in our bones. And we've always tended to our dead, up until a little over 100 years ago. And there's places around the world that still tend to their dead in this way. And so, yeah, my philosophy is that we can create beauty, and we can create sacredness, and we can create a dignified and beautiful environment. How can we tend to those that we love at the end of life to create beauty in a way that is kinder to the earth? So may our homecoming be gentle when we go, when we go back into the earth. Spirit of the Earth, Carry Me Home is a community and foundation supported project
to support low-income and undocumented families in Greater Boston to receive the support for the following things free of charge to them: a cardboard coffin that can be used for cremation or burial, art supplies, video, phone support, and guidance for families to decorate the coffin. I, as the death midwife, will provide emotional and spiritual support and consultation to guide the dying person, family, or loved ones through the coffin art project, and facilitate communication with the funeral home to arrange transport of the deceased to the cemetery or crematorium.
So I've partnered with a distributor, and these are regular cardboard coffins that are used by folks, who want to have home deaths, who want to, go straight to cremation, right? So back then, I was able to build that relationship with Ruth from Morning Dove Studios, and they became an excited partner in being able to provide these coffins. So, they're made out of cardboard, and it's reinforced, and it's made to hold, a body. What the hope and the invitation is that if there's like a special blanket, if there's like a special shirt or sweater that a family would want to be integrated as part of the decoration of the coffin, like that is welcome. If there's like a picture from, or like a drawing from one of the young ones in the family, that is welcome, right? So everything is possible. So right now in the project, we're fundraising. We've been able to raise enough funds at this juncture to be able to support 2 families with like the whole thing. And we're at a place of documenting and telling the story so we could show families and show folks like what is possible. So one of the things that this pandemic has highlighted is our need to grieve, to be in community. For the Day of the Dead, we held a community ritual where we were able to honor those that we have lost. We were able to, to like hold some prayers in a cloth and tie it to twine that was being held by a tree, because we need each other and we long for each other. And if we don't find ways to do this together collectively and find the safest ways, who knows what the impact is going to be down the line. We need to find ways to tend to our hearts, to acknowledge the dead, and to hold the living that are grieving right now. So the more that we talk about death, the more that we support each other through these losses. My hope is in this project that we imagine another way that says I love you, that allows us to bring in our imagination, that allows us to personalize things, that isn't so cookie cutter, right? Because we're unique and we're individuals. The invitation is to like imagine together, to dream together, and to remember that we can create beauty and dignity within our means. And with my project, it's really an expression of love to community.